Alrighty. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's hug. We're going to be talking through how to audit your HubSpot CMS. I am Kalina Rudd. I'm the marketing director here at Next City Marketing, and we are a HubSpot partner agency who is very passionate about all things HubSpot. And we're really excited to talk a little bit more today about how you can review your CMS to make sure it is working as best as possible for your business. So, quick little intro into today's agenda. We're going to start off by talking through why CMS audits matter, talking through what exactly you should be looking for in your CMS audit, and then chatting on what actionable steps can be taken to make sure that the insights turn into action. So, starting off with why do CMS audits matter? When you regularly audit your CMS, it can really help you maintain a clean CMS. It can help keep it organized and ultimately aligned with your growth goals. So when you build in time to sit down and review what's working, what's not working, identify any areas of opportunity or potential growth, it allows you to keep pace with your overall business goals. A couple of signs to look out for that might signal that it's time for a review and refresh of your CMS are first off, if it's hard for your internal team to find and update content. That's a really big sign that something is not quite working as well as it could. If the back end of your CMS isn't organized properly, it can make it really hard for your internal team to move quickly and update content when it needs to be updated. And anything that impacts your workflow can ultimately hinder how up to date you keep your CMS. Another flag to look out for is inconsistent branding. So we all know that businesses evolve over time. And if you have content that's a couple years old, it might be that you've gone through a rebrand, or maybe you've updated your messaging and the way that you speak about certain things. It's always a good idea to keep an eye out for any areas, both in terms of visual branding or messaging, for any inconsistencies that might pop up as your business evolves. It's really important to make sure that your content reflects your approach and your vision. So making sure to review for any old content is going to be really important. And then the last couple bullets here are talking more about SEO and function of the site. So if your site is loading slow, if the images are too large, if it's not showing up in search results, all of that can signal that something isn't quite right, whether how it's your pages are structured, how your content is optimized, but all of that kind of signals it's time to take a deeper look. And a couple benefits of performing an audit. First off, it can help make content easier for your visitors to find. Ultimately, being able to surface the right content at the right time is really going to help nurture site visitors through the buyer's journey and ultimately convert. So it's the easier we can make content surfaceable, the better it is for viewers. Auditing your CMS can also help you improve your overall website performance and ultimately drive more conversions. Again, making sure that we have clear user pathways with content that clearly and succinctly answers the questions people are asking is ultimately going to create really clear pathways for people to convert. It can also help you identify any content gaps or areas of opportunity, and kind of piggybacking off of this last bullet point here about creating space. When you are taking the time to review where your current content is at in comparison to where you want to be, it allows you to pivot if anything's not working, proactively align with future business needs. If you have maybe you're expanding your services, or maybe there's a new hot topic that you want to speak on. All of this helps you identify any areas that you want to expand into, or maybe any areas that are lacking that you want to improve. So next up is what should you be looking for during a CMS audit? And the next couple of slides will walk you through a couple of core areas that we like to focus on, and some actionable questions that you can ask yourself while you are reviewing your portal. The main areas that I like to focus on when running audits come down to the overall structure of your CMS, and that goes both internally on the back end and externally, meaning how it shows up to others and how topics are grouped. The next piece is content quality. At the end of the day, there's a ton of content out there right now, more so every day. And we really want to make sure that we are putting out valuable, intentional, quality content rather than just content for the sake of it. So quality is forever and always going to be a really, really big piece of doing any type of CMS audit. And the third piece here is about performance. So looking at how your website content is performing, how your blog content is performing, and how all of that kind of trickles up to your overall business growth goals. So diving in a little bit deeper here, starting with the structure of your CMS. One of the first questions I like to ask is your navigation pathway, are those pathways really clear for your intended site user? And this is looking at simply at your navigation on your website. You want to make sure that you're surfacing the most important pages that are going to be valuable for people to understand your business, understand the value that you can give to them, and pages that will answer any of the common questions that might happen as they move through the buyer's journey, ultimately aiming to get them over to that main point of conversion, whether that's schedule a consultation or schedule a call or book an inspection, whatever it might be. The biggest piece to keep an eye out for is, are we making it easier for people to get where they need to go? The next piece is, how is your content organized? Again, topic clusters are really, really helpful for organizing content, both on the back end and the front end. And this allows us to make sure that we are speaking about the right topics that are relevant to your business and your industry and relevant to your ideal audience, and grouping them in a way that makes it easy for your internal team to know how much you're speaking about one topic versus another. And then also on the user end allows that content to be surfaced a little bit easier and allow us to, if someone's on one blog and maybe there's that, suggested blogs under it, we want to make sure that we have content that's relevant to be surfaced at that point, so that people can, again, be moving down the pipeline and we make it really easy to answer their questions. The next piece is talking about naming conventions. So this really comes back to making sure that your internal team is really equipped and set up for success to regularly update things properly. And whether that's for site pages or blog pages or even files and images, the easier that you can make for your team to navigate your internal CMS, the easier and quicker it's going to be to update things when necessary. So this is a really, really big piece and should be a part of, anytime that you add any type of new content to your CMS, making sure that it follows a structure so that everyone on your team kind of knows how things are organized. The next piece here is looking for any type of orphaned pages or duplicate content. On the orphan page side, we want to make sure that all of the site pages are accessible and that we are creating those webs that interlink things at relevant points, again, with the end goal being to surface content that's relevant for our users at times that make it most impactful. And then on duplicate content, from an SEO standpoint, we want to make sure that we are not repeating content across multiple pages that really doesn't have any differentiation. So a lot of times this comes in on blog pages. We want to make sure that, again, kind of looping back to topic clusters, if you have one main core topic, what supporting content can you create underneath that is unique and individual, but that supports that larger question that someone might be answering. And then the last piece here is making sure that the right team members have the right permissions. And in HubSpot, you can really customize who is able to do what. But again, back to workflow, making sure that there are no barriers to people doing the right work, making sure that the right people have the option to approve things or that people can make edits on the right pages. All of that should be regularly reviewed so that you're not creating any barriers to forward momentum for your team. Again, all with the goal to make sure that the easier it is to update content, the more likely it is to happen regularly. And regularly updating content is a really big part of a healthy CMS. Next up is content quality. So again, kind of what I mentioned at the beginning, there is so much content out there now. The volume is really out of this world, and we want to make sure that we are responsibly posting content and posting content that is accurate and up to date. So this means when you're posting new content, auditing it thoroughly and reviewing it thoroughly to make sure that this is correct and proper information so that we can, again, support visitors on the site with the best information that is out there to date. And then on a reflective type of note, any old blogs, like regularly reviewing them for any areas to update, whether that's, again, like updated branding or updated content. Maybe you have a blog from 2023 that has gotten a lot of traffic, but maybe there's some pieces in there that need to be updated, whether some parts of your industry have changed, or maybe some parts about the way that your business manages certain items, or even your methodology and viewpoints on some of these topics might adjust. So making sure that you have up-to-date, accurate content is really, really big. The next piece is getting into more of the branding. So does the tone of voice and the visuals align with your brand as it stands today? We know businesses evolve, and whether that's, again, your messaging or your branding, we want to make sure that we're building in the space to consistently ensure that any previous content keeps pace with the current state of your business. This next line here is making sure that your content is aligned with your target keywords. So a lot of the pieces and questions that we're asking during an audit really circle back to your overall marketing strategy, and identifying what your target keywords are really an important part of your overall content strategy, your overall marketing strategy, because that informs what parts of the internet you're really trying to show up on, right? So making sure that as you get deeper into, building out the content and posting all the content, that we don't lose sight of the main goal and what we're trying to rank for. And this is, again, where topic clusters really come into play here and help you to, within HubSpot, they have a really great topic cluster tool that allows you to visually map out all of these different pieces, and you can assign keywords to your various groupings, and it's a really, really cool planning tool that I encourage all of you guys to use. The next piece here is making sure that your content is optimized for not only the right keyword, but also the right conversion. So as businesses evolve, maybe your offers change, or maybe you've updated the look of a PDF, or maybe you've changed entirely to a different priority offer. But as those business changes happen, making sure that your site reflects that as well. So making sure that throughout the site, any pop-ups or any graphical CTAs or standard buttons across your site, making sure that we are directing people to the right conversion for your business, but also based on where they're at in the buyer's journey. Someone who is really in that discovery phase likely is not going to be ready to schedule a call right away. Maybe there's some higher type of conversion point. Maybe there's a guide to download, or maybe it's as simple as subscribing to receive blog updates. But tailoring your conversion based on where people are at in their journey and what's going to be most helpful and relevant to them is a really big piece of ensuring that your content really hits the nail on the head. And this last piece here, are there any gaps in your content that need to be filled? So this kind of comes back up again to mapping out your topic clusters and identifying what your target keywords are. It can be really easy to get really heavy on one certain topic. So for an example, maybe if you're a marketing agency and you want to talk about websites, and you want to talk about email marketing, and maybe you want to talk about SEO, it might be that you have a lot of topic or a lot of content on those first two topics, and you're realizing that you don't quite have a lot on SEO, but maybe there's been a lot of clients coming in with specific questions about that. So that kind of is a clue that you might want to shift some resources over and fill in those gaps related to that lagging topic, so that you can make sure you have a really well-rounded CMS that answers all the various questions that might be coming out. A good trick too is also to talk to your sales team and see, do they have any common questions that they're getting from prospects that they don't have a resource to direct them to. It's a really great way to get real-time feedback into what the people on the ground are really looking for, so that we can always make sure that our content is ultimately serving our target audience and helping them understand all the pieces they need and answer all of their questions along the journey to ultimately hiring you to do work for them. For website performance, this kind of gets back into standard performance reporting. But when we're talking about CMS specifically, ultimately, we're really looking to see for any signals that the content is doing its job. And doing its job means getting in front of the right people, nurturing them along the pathway to conversion, and answering their questions. And some things that might inhibit that are if there are any issues with page speed or page size, anything that's going to prevent a page from loading quickly enough to meet everyone's attention spans is really important. And there are, things that we can do to increase page speed or decrease page speed and size so that things load properly. Because if someone lands on a site page or a blog article and it takes forever to load, it increases the chances of them deciding that maybe they aren't going to find the answer here. They bounce. We want to make sure that we are capturing attention as quickly as possible and surfacing important information as quickly as possible. So making sure that your site is technically allowed for that and equipped for that and optimized for that is really important. The next piece that you're going to want to review from a performance standpoint is seeing how you're showing up in search results. We really like to pull quarterly scans to see what keywords are we currently ranking for? How does that compare to the previous quarter, the previous time that you had pulled those rankings? And then also seeing, are there any gaps? Are there anything that your competitors might be ranking for that you aren't? And look into why that might be. Is that because they offer a different vein of service, or is it because we have a gap in our content strategy that we might want to fill? This really helps you, again, make sure that you're continually aligning your content with what's serving your business growth goals, as well as serving your target audience the best. Another big thing to look out for is, are there any broken links that might need to be redirected? Again, this can impact your SEO, which can impact how well your content is being surfaced to searchers. So making sure that we are catching those broken links, redirecting them appropriately, switching them out to any more relevant new content is a really big piece of performance here. And then the next line here is looking at what pages are really getting the most traffic and the most conversions, because this is going to give you insight into what is driving action the most and what is resonating with people the most. And, ideally that aligns with the action that you want them to be taking to ultimately get to your sales funnel and become a customer. But sometimes you might see something that is different, and this can give you insight into maybe there's changes to be made to some of your language. Maybe there are the wrong pieces being promoted, and all of this gives you insight into what's currently resonating, currently surfacing, so that you can check that with your overall strategy and make sure that if you need to pivot, that you have the information available to do so. So what happens next? You've done this audit, you've answered these questions, you have a good idea of where CMS stands, but information is great. And ultimately it's really about what you do with it that makes the difference. So turning your audit into action is not as it's easier said than done, but the big piece that we find that allows us to make forward momentum starts by prioritizing your findings. You can come out of these audits with 20 different to-do items, but we all know we only have a certain amount of hours in a day, and ultimately strategy comes down to prioritizing the items that will make the most impact and identifying what is the best place to spend your current time right now. So looking for, again, those high impact items, looking for any quick wins, and mapping out what is the most important to support your overall business trajectory. Once you guys have that priority list, you can then plan out your timeline and kind of decide when things need to happen. Do you maybe have a conference coming up, or do you have any hard deadlines that you want to get things updated for? Maybe you have an end of quarter report or anything like that coming up. You can kind of map out when these things really do need to happen based on that priority list. And then from there, it comes down to documenting and getting things scheduled out to the right people, looping in the right team members if you need any support. But putting things down in writing really helps make things happen. And if you can set up a plan that is really actionable, that's going to really help your team move the needle on these items and make a difference. And then from there, it really comes down to getting started, working through the items, and then ideally, in whatever your agreed upon timeline, again, whether that's quarterly or every 6 months, working towards that next time you're going to do the audit, see what changed, what improved, what maybe needs a little bit more work, and your priorities will shift according to where your focus is and adjust as your business grows. But again, building in the consistent time to review what's been done and make sure that your steps are taking you in the right direction is really the name of the game here, and is really why doing these regular audits is such a big part of making sure that your CMS stays up to date and functional and is surfacing the right content to the right people at the right time. Alrighty, that is the presentation for today. So if you guys have any questions on that, feel free to pop them into the chat. I do see Melissa asked about showing examples of what a topic cluster looks like. In the follow-up email that we'll send out with this recording, we'll send out a link to our previous hub that talked through topic clusters. So that will be a great resource for you guys if topic clusters are something that you want to explore and get into a little bit deeper. Folder structures. Yeah, that's a great question. So it's, of course, is going to depend on your business topics, but from a file management standpoint, ultimately it comes down to, it doesn't necessarily matter what the system is, more so that there is a system and the system is being followed. So it might be that you just want to group files by, by file type, maybe by like image or maybe documents. It might be that you want to get a little bit more granular, and maybe you have service-based images. Maybe this is service 1 and this is service 2. But the main thing is creating a system that's agreed upon by your full team, and reviewing to make sure that system is being followed. And we're not perfect. We're humans. We're going to upload files and forget to organize them. But again, it's making sure that you build in time to keep them organized, at least on a semi-regular basis. All right, looks like people are starting to drop off. So thank you guys for your time today. I hope you guys learned a couple of good tidbits here, and I'd love to hear more about how you guys are implementing this. So again, our emails are open. If you guys ever need anything, just shoot us an email, and we will see you guys at our next hug. Thanks, y'all.